This is Firebase. I'm your host, Gary French. As we get started this evening, I want to express my gratitude for all of you viewers in the Louisville, Kentucky area on WBNA Channel 21 who've been watching this program faithfully for so long. From my heart, thank you so much. And for those of you that are watching us on social media, particularly Rumble, I want to thank you as well. We would really appreciate it on any of our social network platforms that you would, or social media platforms that is, that you would subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Make sure that you share the video with other people and encourage others to tune in. I really think, I hope that we are presenting a product to you on this regular Christian talk show and news program that lets you know that the Christian faith is alive and well and that conservative ideals are alive and well. And we're doing our best to present those newsworthy items to you. And with that in mind, let me just say we've been sort of off and on here recently, and it's not because there isn't any newsworthy thoughts or items that are going on right now. It's just that we are inundated with so much stuff that's happening in our nation, in our land. High prices, gasoline high prices. I went to the grocery store the other day and eggs were $1 more per dozen than just a week or two ago. Over the last 3 years, and I've just got to say it, folks, during the current administration, inflation is running rampant. Now, certain people try to put a spin on it and say that it isn't. But all the statistics that I'm reading, everything that I've heard, whether it's been from CNN or Fox News or reading the newspaper, the best data that I've come across and I've seen reported is that it's costing the average American about $11,000 more per year just to stay in pace with what they were doing 3-4 years ago. I don't know how that can continue. And honestly, it can't continue. We've got so much stuff happening in our nation right now that it just seems there's a cloud of depression over everybody. But I want you to know that we don't need to live under that cloud of depression or feeling oppressed. There is hope, and I make no bones about it. I am a born-again believer in Jesus. Christ changed my life, and without him, I would just be as sad and depressed as so many other people are. So I want to encourage you, and when you watch this program, I would greatly appreciate you reaching out to us. You'll see the mailing address there on the screen, and when you send us something that's of value, we'll try our best to respond to it. And with that in mind, we also have our sponsor, Firebase Coffee, and you'll see the website there on the screen. Firebasecoffee.com is a Christian veteran-owned coffee company, been in business since 2008, and it wasn't until about 2020, 2021 thereabout that the name was changed to Firebase Coffee. And I'll just be honest with you, I founded it, and back in 2008, and it's just something that I'm passionate about. That's good coffee, but I'm even more so passionate about bringing you a Christian view of news and encouraging television program. So I want you to know, as we're getting started this evening, thank you. I greatly appreciate your support and your help. Well, having said that, let's get into some of the news items. As I said, there's just so much happening right now. And just think about it. There is inflation. There is a presidential election going on, in case you haven't heard. There is the war in Ukraine. There is the ongoing attack against Israel by radical, crazy extremists that seek to destroy Israel. And you know what? It seems like our world hasn't learned a lesson. the people that are attacking Israel and want to bring them to their utter destruction is the same mentality of Nazis back in the 1930s, wanting to eradicate the Jews. And it seems like we've not learned anything from all of the years of reading our history. But I need to stop right there. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people that want to erase history. We've got a lot of younger people today that just aren't learning U.S. history or world history. And rather than examine the faults and the failings and the negative things that happened in the past, what do? They'll tear down statues. They'll remove memorials, whether it's here in the United States to our founding fathers or to the generals that fought in the Civil War. And they just want to tear that down and just eradicate our history. We learn from our history. We shouldn't do those things. Okay, I've sort of rambled enough right now this evening, folks. Let's get right into the news. In case you haven't heard, just earlier this week, there was an Iowa Caucus, a gathering there in the frigid land of Iowa, frigid temperatures. I don't know that I've been able to be brave enough to go out into that kind of frigid weather, but I commend the people that did. And in case you are not aware, former President Donald Trump won the Iowa Caucus. And let me put it like this, big. He won overwhelming, a landslide in Iowa. Now, the leftist media are trying to poo-poo all of that and say, well, that was just an aberration and there was nothing happened there. And saying, oh, it wasn't as large a vote gathering as it was 4 years ago or 8 years ago or whenever it was. It's always the same, isn't it? When conservatives win something or accomplish something, the left hates it, and they try to discount it and try to and the real issue, and this is just my opinion, is that they try to get you discouraged and to keep you at home and keep you under their I guess their thumb. Well, I think part of the reason why the Iowans went out and voted so overwhelmingly in support of Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley came in second and third, respectively, distant second and third. And people wonder why can't the GOP get in support behind the front leader in the way that the Democrats get behind the current president? And this is not a program or an issue tonight of whether he was rightfully or incorrectly voted in. It's just a statement, folks. And it's an observation. Why can't those people who say they are conservative Christians or just conservative, traditional, believe in the founding fathers, believe in the Constitution, and if they're so conservative, why can't they just get in support of Donald Trump in the way that the leftists get in support of Joe Biden? And it doesn't have to be Joe Biden. It could be any Democrat that's in the office, and they will almost in some dictatorship lockstep fashion get in support of that. And I just don't understand. These are just honest questions. I'm just asking. That's how I'm viewing some of them. And one of the things is that for me, the economy is terrible right now. As I said, eggs $1 more a dozen. If I want to go buy a loaf of Ezekiel bread, which I happen to like, you're having to spend $7.50 up to $10 per loaf for Ezekiel bread. That's crazy. What's going on? And that leads me to something else. Has nothing to do with politics. But why is it that we only seem to have eggnog at Thanksgiving or Christmas? One of those curious things. It's a conspiracy. I'm telling you. Well, let's go back to what we've got going on in our nation right now. That if our current president, Joe Biden, is as bad as the economy is right now, why can't conservative people get in support of Trump? Here's the observation. Here's what I hear on the news media. And this isn't stuff that I'm just bringing up. This is information that I print out in different news media, and it's on all of them, whether it's The Stream or Fox or CNN, Wall Street Journal. Here's what they report, that they're saying that President Trump, former President Trump, he says that he has a plan to fix the border, to strengthen the military, to support police, to lower taxes, to create jobs, make cities safe, and return pride to the United States. And you might say, well, what's going on? Why is all of this happening? And you know what? I don't know. Unless it's part of a grander plan to try to get us distracted while something else goes on. But listen, I want you to know that there are good things happening. And I know that President Biden has a plan. And I know that, wait just a second. What? I'm getting a news flash here. Oh, okay. I'm being told in my ear that President Biden does have a plan. And here's the news clip that we found from, I think it was CNN.
My name is Joe Biden. I love ice cream.
I'm an ice cream guy. Is the ice cream down that way? Y'all gotta eat this ice cream.
Well, now, isn't that fascinating? He does have a plan. And the plan, I guess, is to make sure that America eats ice cream again. Well, in other news, let me find out for you about that great reporter. I don't know if I should call her journalist or reporter or not, but she's pretty much anti everything that I'm for, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But on MSNBC, Joy Reid accuses white Christian Iowans of wanting to have people of color bow down to them, and this woman had the audacity to say white people, especially those in Iowa, are racist. And if anybody supports Donald Trump, you are a racist, and you're a white racist. And she condemned Monday evening this past week of white Christians of supporting Donald Trump in the Iowa Caucus of being white racists or white supremacists. I saw an interview with Dr. Carol, was it Carol McSwain? Of an incredible intellect, well-published, highly respected black lady who has her own PhD. She made a comment about Joy Reid, and I didn't notice it, but even as I'm looking at the report here, there's a picture of Joy Reid, and Dr. McSwain said, if emulating white people or the white people are so bad, why is Joy Reid wearing a blonde wig, which would be like from a white person? Just a curious question right there. Anyway, here's what Joy Reid had to say. She recounted that a gentleman had told her, Robert Jones, who's the president and founder of the Public Religion Research Institute and author of The Hidden Roots of White Supremacy. I suppose if you're a Christian, if you're a white Christian, you're a white supremacist, and I don't know what else that's supposed to mean. He told her that Iowa is about 61% white Christian, while the rest of the nation is only 41% white Christian. Okay, what's that got to do with anything? And here's what she said, and this was the conversation that was going on, that they, white Christians, see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. She goes on and she explained to her co-host there that evening all the things that we think about electability, about what are people gaming out, whatever that means. But none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not white, conservative Christian, is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. And here's what she says, and what she thinks about Americans. They don't care about electability. You only care, white Christians, about what God has given you. And you don't want that to have, you don't want anybody else to have that. You don't want any other black person or brown person or Asian person to have that. Here's what it comes down for her, just from reading that. She hates white people. And she hates white Christians. That's terrible. Why would any of us want to hate a fellow American? It doesn't make sense that we are like that. And she goes on, and she made that supporting Donald Trump. He said it's a religion. And I think what we have to actually confront, and that is what the Democrats are going to face, is this is now what white evangelicalism is. It's Christian nationalism. That's the name of it, right? She says. Well, to that, my question is, number one, I'm not a Christian nationalist. I'm a Christian American. I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I believe that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. I believe that Jesus is the only way to heaven. I believe that. But I am not going to force people to believe that. I'll share with them. I don't know of any Christian church, really strong Christian church, that goes out and tackles people and wants to kill them if they don't believe in Jesus Christ. But at the same time, to call as if it is denigrating us to say you are a Christian nationalist, here's what I am. I am a Christian, but I am also a believer in the Constitution. I believe in freedom of religion for everyone. I believe in freedom of speech for everyone. And it's not that I want to try to silence or cancel anybody else who doesn't believe that way. You have the option, you have the freedom to believe any way that you choose. And what people, like I've just read in this report, it seems like they would rather have an atheistic socialist state instead of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembling, freedom to address grievances that we have against our nation. I don't understand why they are so dogmatic in trying to force us, Christians by that I mean, to accept an agenda that is counter to our American ideals and counter to our Christian faith. I believe, I learned in when I was growing up, it seems like 100 years ago, I grew up learning to respect our nation. I grew up learning to respect those older than me. I grew up in Mississippi. I didn't know how poor I was growing up, but I didn't grow up racist. I wasn't taught intrinsically that being a poor white kid that I was better than anybody else. I realized that there were people much poorer than we were, and there were people a lot richer than we were. But one of the first things that I learned is that here in America, in the United States of America, every single person matters. Now, I may not agree with what you believe, and I may not go to church that you believe. I had a dear friend when I was growing up, a playmate. He was Catholic. Well, I wasn't raised in church, but I didn't have anything against them. I knew of Jewish people when I was growing up, but I didn't think anything negatively towards them. Had a guy who was a friend of mine that I officiated at a wedding that he was Lebanese. I didn't have anything against him because of his background or his heritage. But friends, it seems like over the last 15 years, we've been taught by a certain political group of people that we are so divided, that we don't have anything in common, that we need to isolate ourselves from one another. And that's tragic that we do that we isolate ourselves. Speaking of isolating, let me share something that I got from the Stream news source. If you haven't seen the Stream, just type it in and do a search for the Streams. It was an organization started by that great evangelist, James Robinson. Here was a report that came out. Bet you didn't hear about this in any of the other mainline media. Dr. Fauci admits that the 6-foot distancing idea that helped wreck the country was made up, but is, and this is in quotes, is not convinced his school lockdowns harmed learning. Really? Locking down people out of school, kids out of school, that seemed to make them better? Here's what it goes on. It says 3 years ago, Dr. Anthony Fauci donated his personal 3D model of the SARS-CoV-2 viron to the Smithsonian's Museum of American History. And he found himself on display in the Museum of Natural History as a prime specimen. Here's what the writer, the news person said, as prime specimen of a weasel. Anyway, here's what it goes on, that he testified just recently before the House Select Committee on the coronavirus pandemic, that this is before Congress. You can go find this in the documents there, that he testified before Congress that the 6 feet distancing rule, the one that helped force to shut down schools and keep people isolated, to keep people at home, and kept loved ones away from their other loved ones that perhaps were even dying. Businesses shut down, never to reopen. And anyway, here's what he admitted in Congress, that the 6 feet distancing rule was a fiction. He says it was not based on science and just sort of appeared. Somebody had to come up with this ludicrous idea. Do you remember when Joe Biden was running for president and they would have the news media out there and they had these circles out there all properly 6 feet apart? Did they have to hire somebody with a 6-foot stick, make sure everybody was apart, as if 6 feet would keep somebody from getting sick? I don't get that. That just doesn't make sense to me, and I'm sure it doesn't to you. Here's something else that doesn't make sense. California wants to ban tackle football for those under 12. Now, some of you are probably saying, yes, we don't want the little kids to have brain injuries and concussions. Well, okay, I can go along with that. But, when I was a kid, it was like play football or, throw pine cones at each other, and green pine cones. But here's what it is. This is the same state. California wants to ban tackle football for those under 12 because they're afraid it will affect their brain and their developmental age or growing. But it's okay in California for 11-year-olds to have their sexual organs mutilated, but you just can't play football. You can have surgery. And it seems like California has no problem with wrecking a kid's life. You just don't want them to play football. I've got so much other stuff here that I want to share with you, but we're wrapping out. We're coming to the end of the program. Let me give you a quote that I've got here. I've got a couple of things that are just incredible. But I found this quote from Booker T. Washington, a black man. And he says, I am afraid that there is a certain class of race problem solvers who don't want the patient to get well because as long as the disease holds out, they have not only an easy means of making a living, but also an easy medium through which to make themselves prominent before the public. There are some people in our society, in our land today, they really don't want the nation to get better. And so they keep on pushing their own agenda, and it's pushing their agenda to that's detrimental to our nation. How sad that is, that people would put an agenda, and understand this, a lot of times it's just a political agenda that they'll put ahead of what's really best for the nation. I don't know about you, but I like watching old black and white movies. I love the ones from the 30s and also from the 40s, especially during the turmoil of the Second World War. Not because I like war movies, but when you look at everyday life, I miss the things of where it seemed like there was a great deal of patriotism and respect from children to elders. There was an understanding that Sunday was a day of worship, and it seemed like there was a kinder, gentler nation that we once lived in. Now we're split. It seems like we're split and we're pushed apart. Everything is so divisive or divisive from everything else. And it all comes down to this, that you can't say that. You can't post that. You can't put that out there because that's you're so divisive in everything that you're doing. When has the truth ever been divisive? The truth is divisive when it counters the lies. Here at Firebase, we want you to know that we always want to target the lies, but we fire for effect with God's truth. Until next week, God bless. Thanks for watching this most recent episode. Click below the like button. Provide any comments that you like. Also, we will get back to you as soon as we can after you write to us at P.O. Box 39, Perry Park, Kentucky, 40363. Also, let us know if you like really good coffee, and we'll send that out to you as soon as we possibly can. What's the name of the coffee? Firebase.